Welcome back to Whine Wednesday. I'm here with my lovely host, AK.
Hello, it's always great to be back. It looks like rosé again this week. I think you might have picked up a new flavor.
I live in Florida now, and Florida is hot. And my wife ordered off of my mom. My mom sent her a case. We got rosé up out of our ears.
I love it. Not a bad problem to have, but yes, good to be back. I feel like we've had some good engagement over the past couple of weeks. There's been a lot of craziness happening, but I think one thing that has stayed like constant when it comes to SDR world, AE world, the funnel in general is like the battle between what is an MQL, what is an SQL, what is an SQO. Every company calls it something different. Everyone has all these different opinions. Especially as you join a new company, it's really like hard to understand. And then as companies grow, definitions change and things too. So figured that might be a good topic for us to dive into tonight.
I love it. And I'm a dinosaur here. So since I'm the dinosaur and I am simplistic, I want to go first and then I'll hand it to you to add your icing on top. I am an SQL, is right title, right company, with some form, even if it's one line for each, of BANT covered. So if I'm dealing with the VP of sales, I say, hey, seriously, I say this, make me a one-pager of all the titles that can buy from us and all the prerequisites, size of company, funding round, whatever, all the titles. Secondly, after that, I say, what open-ended questions would you like me to ask related to budget, authority, need, and time? I say, give me that. If my guys check this or my girls check this, it is an SQL. They're getting paid for it, and I don't care if they hang up on you after 10 minutes.
Okay, I've got my pen out because I'm like frantically taking notes because this topic is like very one that I get heated about. So really quick though, defining. So SQL is what your reps get paid on today.
Correct. The majority of our quotas are SQL related. Sales qualified lead means they showed up to the meeting. And then if I had to make up a number, like let's just say 70 to 80% of their quota comes from that. Some have a 20% or so bonus on if it moves forward to opportunity. I have some founders that are vehemently like, they get the right title in the company, they did their job, they're done. Whether it moves forward or not is on the AE, but we'll hand the mic to you for that.
Okay. Well, I just want to like make sure we're like on the same page with like language, because again, every company talks about this differently. For us, what you're describing is actually a sales qualified opportunity. So, but that is still what the SDR gets paid on. And then we have different stages from there that progresses like for the AE to track like their sales process. But I'm in the same like camp as far as like there's only so much an SDR can control, and like let's talk about like thinking about it from like an outbound lens, right? Like we have done our due diligence of identifying our TAM, getting it into Salesforce, getting books assigned based off of the tiering, based off of our ideal customer profile, yada yada. I can keep using more acronyms if we would like, but like the point being is like to your point, right title, right company. And so for us, like we do keep that threshold pretty low, where it's a director hire in one of the persona buckets that we can sell to at one of the accounts that we have actually identified as a potential customer for our business. And then there is a follow-up conversation scheduled from there. And that follow-up could be within 6 months or something, because as we're, our outbound is we're moving up into more of the enterprise space. So these people aren't raising their hand wanting, to evaluate today, but they might in 6 months. They could have a renewal, like whatever it is. We view the SDR function as like knocking on a door and getting someone to say, yes, I'm willing to take a meeting.
And let me hear this then. Are there instances where you side with the AE when they want to mark an SQO not qualified? Or is it that cut and dry that you have this nailed?
No, there's like arm wrestling matches that happen like every Friday in the office. No,
you're strong.
I'm really strong. No, there's definitely issues. I don't want to say issues, but I think where I've seen, maybe this is on me, like over the years where I've like changed.
Let's whine. I want some whining here. Give me some whining. When do you call the AEs pieces of crap And when are you like, my SDR is trying to get paid here pretty easily, cheaply, cut some corners, shitty
Well,
numbers.
luckily there's things like Gong that record things, and so you
Okay.
can actually hear conversations. I think it depends on like tenure of an AE
Like,
sometimes.
are you putting the headphones on with the VP of sales and y'all are about to uncover a mystery?
Sometimes.
Okay.
No, the way we have like created the path is that like if an SDR feels like this should be an S2 and an AE disagrees and they've tried to work through it to themselves, they go to their manager. If their manager goes up to their director, like I don't love getting that slack throughout the day that like this should be an S2, but I also like mama bear comes out where I'm like, I'll fight for every S2 that I have to. But what I was saying is like what I've changed over the years though is like when I was a first time manager, like I thought everything should be an S2. Now, when I'm like looking at the financials and understanding the cost per lead in S2 and the conversion rates and just like the bigger picture, like there is different, there's gray areas in some of the things. But I think like when you start looking at those conversion rates, like there's numbers that you should pay attention to. And for us, like from an outbound perspective, it's actually an inbound. It's like 75 to 80% of any demo that's held turns into an S2. So like we've identified our ICP. That's been my like metric at a lot of different companies too. So I think holding to it, then as I always talk about slicing data and looking at it in different ways, like look at it by segment, look at it by rep, who's got different behaviors and habits that are happening. And when an org gets as big as ours is and you're remote, like stuff can, get swept under the rug and you don't notice it until later. But I think like we've done a really good job of like trying to be more proactive about it versus like, reactively.
And this is an underhand pitch, but I want to know in case we do something slightly different. I assume your AE's motivation for disqualifying is not to hate on SDRs. It's because they get measured on their conversion rate. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. Like definitely not to hate on SDR by any means. We definitely monitor conversion rates by rep and stuff. I would say for us right now, it's a very unique situation because we've moved from like 100% inbound into an outbound motion. So like the whole muscle is changing a little bit. But I think, the other additional layer that adds to that is the multi-product. So there's like, Rippling offers like a ton of different products. Someone could come in wanting one that we don't necessarily sell at like a la carte or whatever. And so there are times where someone can't work with us. And that's just kind of the reality. And that sucks when that happens. But I'd say like the best thing you can do is always assume good intent.
That's fair. And then we only have a couple minutes left here. I want to end with some advice. So one, it's okay that SDRs whine when an SQ1 doesn't move to SQ2 or S2 and vice versa. Same with AEs. AEs don't want SDRs wasting their time. SDRs don't want to be not paid when they feel like they should be paid. This is actually healthy conflict. So anyone out there that's never made this before, I say this all the time, make quotas and pay people for what you want them to be paid for and set up checks and balances. You want KPIs for your AEs to have quality, because I had super cool AEs that were 10 years older and were like, nah, dude, I'm gonna pay you on everything. And they rewarded the bad behavior. I was lazy, they'd push things through and it threw off all our macro number. And
I was gonna agree with you in the fact that like these are necessary conversations that happen, and the friction, all it does is make the business better. It makes your funnel tighter, like hones in on the stuff that you should be paying attention to. Like these are good conversations to be having, and anyone that's afraid to have those confrontational conversations like shouldn't be in those like leadership roles, right?
100%. And sorry, I was just gonna say you cut me off at the perfect time. I was just gonna say, to me, nailing your math of sales honestly helps the business so much. And I'll hand you back the mic, just because you get to find outliers. If there's this one SDR that has like 90-something% of their leads convert and one AE that the same, and then you have the other outliers that's like 50%, and you listen to their gong calls and they're asking different questions, doing different things, you're starting to identify the art of sales, the actual art, like their ability to input need versus want, to make you feel needed versus like nice to have or next month. So I'm gonna hand you back the mic, but I just wanted to say that this is like devil in the details math of sales, art stuff that is so important, and it separates the average AE and SDR from like the top 1%.
Well, it does. And then you just opened up a can of worms around pods, which is like, I love pods, but then when you start looking at the data and you start slicing it by pods, like behaviors have changed and different people are, deciding what their version of an S2 is compared to someone else's. We didn't even talk about further up the funnel with MQL and marketing, but like, I think we could definitely add on to this maybe next week.
We only have 1 minute left, but you just gave me a bridge for our next episode next week. I actually want to talk about how stringent you are for prerequisites on inbounds versus outbounds, because I believe they should be very different. And I believe that for multiple reasons. We won't, but let's come next week with inbound versus outbound. If you're building the two muscles, functions, how you have to approach them differently. And then you know me, I'm always happy to fight with marketing. Then let's come back to marketing on what is and is not an MQL. What should and should not go to SDRs? When does the SDR fail versus when did marketing fail? I think we have our next 2 episodes ironed out.
Okay, my last thing that I do want to whine
Please,
about,
2 minutes.
Advice to every AE, just convert your ops in a timely manner. 24, 48 hours, like just update it. You got done with your call, you put your notes in, change the status. That's probably the most frustrating part as like from an SDR like org is we'll have hundreds overdue. And I don't know how many of those actually held that'll be an opportunity or how many of those need to be no-showed or rescheduled. So in a high volume world, it makes it very hard to forecast. So that's my big whine, I guess, against AE.
And what I would say, and this is completely anecdotal, and I have no data to back this up, people that make their beds in the morning apparently are more successful. They start their day with an accomplishment. I have a weird feeling AEs that like drag out their hygiene in their CRM just are a little less successful than the ones that are like laser on top of it, call to action, notes, but we'll never know.
We'll never know because we lead SDR orgs.
Fair enough. I appreciate you, AK. We have our next 2 topics lined up.
Perfect. Cheers. Have a good night.
Cheers, cheers, cheers.